Hey guys, it's Paradise, and after going through over 40 articles and videos from the lucky content creators and press that had a chance to go hands-on with Monster Hunter Wilds, there is still a load of insane, new and hype details to go over, even though we've already dropped over 70 changes that are coming. So in this video, we wanted to go over some more of the things that have been confirmed and talk about extra details highlighted in other languages articles, such as Spanish, French, Korean, and the Japanese outlets. It seems like the hype isn't going to stop yet in the lead up to Wild's launch, as some of the new stuff we've discovered is pretty spicy information about what exactly some of the new moves for the weapons are, as well as information on underwater combat. Again, we want to try and make the best content possible for you guys, but this is not something we have direct footage of, as it was a behind closed doors demo, so we will be running trailers in the background and putting examples where possible. Also, please note that some of these articles have been auto-translated as they're in languages that we don't speak, or the community haven't posted translations, so please do give us some leeway as we're really digging deep to try and get this information to you guys. Anyway, tell us what you're thinking about Wilds at the moment with all of this new information that has come out, and we'll be going through this thick and fast as there is a lot to go through and we don't want to waste your time. We know that the game will feature apex monsters for the different locales, but something interesting that we learned about everyone's favorite new Thormagala monster is that this monster will only appear when the Sandtide weather event is active, which the previewers actually got to experience. And to be honest, this makes sense considering we can see it channel the same lightning that you see in the Sandtide when it does its attack. Something that will be good news for some and bad news for others is that it seems like underwater combat will not be making a return in Monster Hunter Wilds, as in an interview with a Korean outlet, the developers were asked this: since it will be released on next-gen consoles and PC, can we expect a revival of the existing content and fields such as Hunter and Underwater Battle? Producer Sugimoto says, in this work, content such as hunting grounds or underwater battles are not implemented. Do bear in mind there could be some mistranslation here as we don't speak Korean, but after using various different software to translate it for a few different sort of opinions, it came out with the same thing or very similar wording, stating that both Prowler mode for the Palico and underwater combat will not be making a return in Wilds. But hopefully they will still have Lagiacrus in the game, even if it can only take small dips into some puddle areas, kind of like how Almudron did in Rise. A small thing that has been confirmed is that the game is running on RE Engine, as is commonplace with all recent Capcom games. They have actually undergone a massive update to the engine called RE Next, so we're hoping to see some of these new upgrades here. To be honest, many of you may have some bad memories with the performance of Dragon's Dogma 2, which was another RE Engine game. So some people might be thinking that we're doomed for Monster Hunter Wilds, but so far from the previewers' impressions of the performance and visuals, they seem to be very positive, even though there were some performance issues. And one of the things that we're always excited to hear about are the changes to the weapons, and thanks to the Japanese YouTuber Yoshinama, we actually got to learn a bit about what is in store for the longsword. Basically, it seems like there is a new thrust move that multiple people have been commenting on. On top of this, there is a new, more stationary way for longsword users to gain spirit meter levels, and alongside this, we know there is some sort of version of the Helmbreaker making a return. But let's go through exactly what he said. Again, this has been translated, so do forgive us for any mistranslations. Yoshinama said, there's a thrusting motion for the longsword, and it seemed like it was advancing quite a bit. It may even be a completely new move. So it looks like there is a significant change in the longsword's mechanics, with a possible introduction of a new vertical stance that alters the color of your key meter. This new stance could be a replacement or an addition to the traditional spinning slash, which allows for more precision and stationary attacks, which may enhance your damage but restrict your movement. And speaking of the longsword, the Helm Splitter move was also included, and it starts similar to the World Helm Splitter, where you do a jump and a vertical slash, but now it has an additional final action afterwards. Yoshinama also commented that this now looks more visually impressive. But if you're a dual blade main, you're going to be happy to hear this one. We know from one of the presentations that the media outlets got to see a new Blue Demon mode, which from their descriptions sounded very similar to the evasion mode from Rise that would allow you to prioritize evasion over attacking. And then for the greatsword, although we have seen it in the trailer, it is being mentioned in the previews that the greatsword's new move allows it to counter with a big attack and then dash in for a follow-up attack. As mentioned in our previous video, ranged weapons like the bow, heavy bowgun, and light bowgun are also getting significant changes. And the hunting horn will be returning to a similar playstyle closer to World instead of that new Rise version. We haven't been able to confirm exactly how many different moves each weapon will be getting, but in a Games Radar article they did mention that there will be at least one each. On top of this, there were some very interesting questions being asked in Screen Rant's interview, which specifically related to new weapons and updates to weapons, which mentions some of the stuff that we've already spoken about in this video, but does give a bit more context. So let's go through this, as it is good information to know. They asked two questions, with the first being, it's been a long time since we saw new weapons in Monster Hunter. You don't have to say that is happening, but is there a chance that it's happening in Wilds? Konami Fujioka said, so we are designing Wilds right now with the structure of 14 weapons in mind. But what we really want you to understand is that we're really honing in on the individuality and uniqueness of each weapon. We really want you to feel the essence of each weapon as you play it, and we hope that players still feel interested in and that they still appreciate what each weapon has to offer. He says, I know this is a bit of a non-answer, but right now we don't have any plans for a new weapon. Now don't get me wrong, I really want to see a new weapon in Wilds, but it seems like we're going to have to wait a little bit before we can actually see a new one. Maybe they're holding out for an expansion or something like that, we just don't really know yet. As a follow-up to this question though, they then asked, is there a weapon that's gotten the biggest rework heading into Wilds, and what's going to be the most changed thing from what players recognized before? The response was, so we haven't really gotten into many details, but what we do want to say is that the bowgun type weapons have seen quite a bit of change, as well as the hunting horn. The action team have been doing a great job of updating mechanics for these weapons. And it's not just limited to those weapons, we've done a great job of making each weapon feel a lot better, feel much more playable, and evolve the action mechanics of each weapon so it's all across the board. Now from this, we really can't wait to get our hands on the weapons and see how they feel. Even without a whole new weapon, it seems like we could be getting a fresh gameplay experience from the weapon swapping system, as well as the new moves being added to them and ways that they've been reworked. During an interview with Games Radar, Tokida did tease that this system has more to be revealed. He said, I can't go into too much details yet, but we do have a campaign ahead of us to reveal more gameplay details. I want to say that as the story progresses, players will be able to gain access to skills or features that will tie into this new system of using two different weapons at the same time. As to what exactly this means, watch this space, we've just started revealing information. Another thing related to the weapon swapping system is that the meters for the various weapons will continue to deplete over time when you swap them, instead of having their gauges completely reset. And this sort of emphasizes how the weapon swapping system will be more core to gameplay, rather than something that you only do every now and then, otherwise the gauges resetting wouldn't be a problem. Now we do know some people will be a one-trick pony, only having two versions of their single main weapon, because you can bring two of the same weapon, and the developers have said that Wilds is balanced in such a way that it doesn't require you to bring different weapon types. But while we're talking about your weapon gauges and how they reset when switching weapons, if you do a weapon switch in camp, this will trigger the gauges to reset. So ultimately we know there will be more to this weapon switching mechanic as you progress through the game. But just imagine the memes we would get if you could do something outlandish like dual wield greatswords if you bring two of them with some kind of new skill or power you unlock, and you're just stood there in a power stance like Radahn from Elden Ring. Now that is probably a bit far-fetched, so jokes aside, it's probably going to be some kind of a similar system to Monster Hunter Rise where you had the weapon swapping scrolls. Maybe you can get a buff or a new move or a switch skill or something like that. But another big question that we wanted answers for is if the game will be fully open world or not, because even after the recent information reveals from various videos and articles, the community has been left very confused about this, as there is a lot of conflicting information out there mentioning that the world would be split into zones like in a traditional open world. However, in the Japanese articles, the developers were way more clear about how exactly the system works. The first article we have is from gamer.ne.jp, which says, "This is the first seamless map. but will the field continue to expand or will it be designed with one base per area? Tokuda then said, "The image is of a vast, seamless map with more areas like forests and deserts. The scale of the map will expand as the story progresses." Another example comes from DengekiOnline.com in an interview where they asked a similar question. "It seems like the base and field are seamlessly connected, so does this mean you can enjoy the game like an open world?" Fujioka said, "It's difficult to define an open world. We're not aiming for a highly free open world where you can go anywhere and proceed in any way you like. We've made the base and field seamless in order to maintain the gameplay feel of Monster Hunter." But then they go on to ask what we all want to know. Are the multiple fields connected seamlessly? Tokuda then says, as the story progresses, the number of fields you will go to will increase, but they are connected seamlessly. However, there are some exceptions, such as some areas that are too far away. So from all of this, we think the best way to visualize it is to think of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's world, which has several interconnecting zones, but some of the areas require you to use other transport methods to get there, like fast travel. Again though, this has been auto-translated, so some of it could be wrong, but to be honest, from everything we're seeing, this is adding up and making sense to us. But on the topic of unlocking the story as you go, there is going to be some jank around the cutscenes, as when it comes to co-op and partying up, it seems like there will be certain segments where you need to experience specific parts of the story before allowing some of these co-op elements. The devs have ensured though that players will still stay connected in co-op even in the background. Now, something that intrigued me is your customization options for your hunter, and we now know there will be various different voice options for you to pick, and we're going to take a guess here that they will release more voice options as DLC, kind of like they started to do for the NPC characters towards the end of Monster Hunter Rise. But another type of customization that you can unlock will actually be for your secret mount in the game. So as you progress, you can do things like pick different fur colors for your secret, as the team have said they don't want players forgetting which one is theirs, so you should be able to make it somewhat distinct. And while we're on the topic of mounts, an awesome question was asked about mounted combat. They said it seems like there are many ways to attack while mounted. Will you be able to play the hunting horn while mounted, or collect essences while mounted with the insect glaive? Tokuda says basically, the weapons are designed to deal damage on the ground, so it doesn't support these special actions. The idea is to use it as an accent in special situations, such as pulling monsters while mounted, and it extends to the usability of the actions a little in conjunction with those. Therefore, all weapons are not designed to be used only for mounted attacks. But this was then followed up with, does the bowgun only fire normal shots while mounted? Tokuda says bowguns can be used to change the type of ammunition so that they can be used relatively easily. However, they cannot use all ammo types, so their role as a support weapon remains unchanged. So this kind of dismisses the idea of full mounted combat in the game where you completely take out a monster while riding. It also kind of tempers concerns that the bowgun may have been a little insane, as you can just sort of shoot it and auto-lock onto monsters while mounted. But if you can still use special ammo while mounted, even if it's not all of them, it'll be very interesting to see what this allows for in a multiplayer lobby. Now, many people have wanted to know if this new game has any links to older games, like the theory that Gemma is Little Miss Forge from Monster Hunter 4U. But in an interview, Tokuda said this: "I want to make it clear, this is not a sequel to any series. It's a new scenario. I think many people are concerned that the name Forbidden Area is the same as in 4, but we've adopted the name Forbidden Area to indicate that this is a place where general entry is dangerous." So unfortunately, it doesn't seem like this has any direct ties to Monster Hunter 3 or 4. Another aspect of the game that we've been very eager to learn more about but wasn't explained very well is the new wounding system, but at a very top level, after reading through various articles, it seems quite similar to the endgame curio mechanic from Sunbreak, but expanded on a bit more and mixed in with the tenderizing system from Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Tokuda explained it pretty perfectly here, saying, "First of all, the wounds themselves are unrelated to focus mode. As long as you keep attacking, you can make wounds on parts of the body that can be damaged. For wounds that have already been made, you can use a weak point attack from concentration mode. This will deal great damage even without a concentrated weak point attack, and some monsters may have a special reaction to this. Focus mode is a system where you press a button to make a cursor appear, and you can easily guard or attack in the direction of the cursor. For people who are not good at action games and find it difficult to match the position and angle with the monster, using this in conjunction with the lock-on camera will make it way easier to hit attacks and make the game smoother. He also said as you concentrate, wounds are highlighted in red, making them very easy to identify where the weak spots are. And if you land the focused weak point attack on them, you can deal massive damage while also transitioning into a special follow-up technique. So after reading all of this stuff, it has only made us more hyped for Wilds. I wish they would actually release footage of the demo, because it seems like everyone that got to see this demo was truly blown away. The trailers are cool, but they don't have that same feeling of what it's actually going to be like when you play it, so I'm super pumped if we get more news or some gameplay like they saw. So all in all, we're very pumped and excited to see some real gameplay, hopefully in the future. Now, of course, we appreciate and love you guys, and we're definitely sure some people are going to be scouring through looking for all of these details and quotes that we've mentioned here, like you're some kind of detective Sherlock Holmes, but don't worry, we've actually linked the various media articles and sources down in the description. So if you want to check it out and get further details or look into the things we've mentioned, it's going to be there for you guys. So you can actually go and look and translate for yourself. And if you do speak any of these languages natively and you discover any extra details or tidbits, put it in the comments so we can all learn together as a community, and thank you for your hard work.